You guys just heard there, man. He said all the quarterbacks getting the quarterback reps, scout team reps. But at the end of the day, if that was the case, why is information coming out that Shedeur is not? I don't know, man. It's looking real spooky in Cleveland, but I'm going to stay on top of this. But I want to know y'all thoughts down in the comment section right now. Keep them bells on. I'm coming right back with another one. And until next time, dog, shake the haters off. I'm out of here.
You can't fire the owner because he can't fire himself. Yeah, someone's head's going to roll, unfortunately, in this situation, and it's probably Stefanski and Barry.
I saw on The Athletic.
I don't think that's fair, by the way. It's Stefanski, that part.
I agree. I was saying the other day on my podcast that Barry should be fired. And I said I wouldn't fire Stefanski, but a couple of people made the point of saying, well, if you fire the GM, you got to give him a chance to hire his own coach, which is fair.
That's true.
So I would fire Barry. I would hire a new GM. If that GM thinks Kevin Stefanski's a good coach.
Don't skip a single second of this video. And if this story touches your heart, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from? Let's begin. Let me be clear right from the jump. This wasn't just some offhand comment from Bill Musgrave. This was the kind of slip that rips the curtain wide open on an organization already drowning in mixed messages. The Browns tried to spin this whole offseason around equal reps, fair competition, everyone gets a shot. That was the public story. That's what they fed the media. But when Musgrave let it slip that Shedeur Sanders is basically living on the scout team, that wasn't just a detail, it was a bombshell. It was confirmation that Cleveland's messaging machine and Cleveland's actual football reality are two completely different worlds. And if you followed this franchise long enough, you know how dangerous that gap really is. Because when a team lies about reps, about competition, about opportunities, that's not just coach speak. That's not just PR spin. That's culture rot. That's dysfunction bleeding into player development. And when it involves your quarterback position, the heartbeat of the entire roster, it's not just a problem, it's a crisis. Think about what this means for Shedeur Sanders. This is a rookie quarterback who came into the league with sky-high expectations, maybe more eyes on him than any other young passer not named Caleb Williams. He's the son of an NFL legend. He's been under the spotlight since he was a teenager, and he's carried himself like a professional every step of the way. But instead of giving him a structured development plan, instead of building trust with the fan base and setting a clear direction, the Browns just got caught red-handed playing games with his future. You don't do this to a rookie quarterback. You don't tell the media he's getting opportunities and then quietly bury him as a practice prop. That's not development, that's sabotage. And that's why this slip is so massive, because it proves what so many fans already feared. The Browns are talking out of both sides of their mouth. They're saying one thing to keep the heat off, but behind closed doors they're making decisions that could stunt the growth of their most important draft pick. And here's the wild part. Ownership knows it. That's why the reports of them being furious carry so much weight. Owners don't usually care about scout team reps. They don't normally get involved in practice distribution. But the fact that Jimmy Haslam and company are already raging about what leaked out, that tells you this isn't just about reps. It's about credibility, about trust, about whether this front office and coaching staff actually have a plan, or if they're just winging it week to week. For the Browns, this is dangerous ground. Because once the public starts to believe you're lying about your quarterback, it's almost impossible to win them back. Fans in Cleveland have lived through this before. They've seen the empty promises, the quarterback carousels, the wasted talent. And if Shedeur Sanders becomes the next victim of that cycle, the anger you're hearing now will look like nothing compared to what's coming. This wasn't a small mistake. This was the crack in the dam. And once that water starts pouring out, you don't patch it with a press conference or a tweet. You patch it by proving on the field that you know what you're doing. Right now, the Browns look like an organization that doesn't, and that should terrify every single fan in Cleveland. Here's where things get real. Let's talk about Shedeur Sanders and where he actually stands in this quarterback room. On paper, the Browns tried to sell us this idea of open competition. They made it sound like every young quarterback would get a fair shake, every rep would matter, and the best player would rise. But look at the reality. Shedeur isn't being groomed for a role in this offense. He's being stashed, shoved down the depth chart, and asked to mimic other quarterbacks instead of building his own identity in Cleveland's system. That's not competition, that's politics. And it makes no sense when you line it up against his resume. This is a guy who threw for over 35 touchdowns in his final college season. A guy who showed elite decision-making, pocket awareness, and NFL-level arm talent week after week. We're talking about a quarterback who was the heart of Colorado's offense, who kept them competitive in games they had no business being in. The poise, the accuracy, the leadership, it was all there. Scouts said it, analysts said it, even opponents said it. Shedeur looked NFL ready. So how in the world do the Browns justify burying him as nothing more than a scout team body? How do you take a player who has lived under the spotlight, who's been the guy everywhere he's played, and reduce him to running someone else's playbook so your defense can get extra practice? It's not just baffling, it's insulting. And let's not act like Browns fans haven't seen this movie before. This franchise has a history of mismanaging quarterbacks, drafting talent, hyping them up, then leaving them to rot behind bad coaching decisions and front office dysfunction. Baker Mayfield, Deshaun Kaiser, Johnny Manziel. Every time the story was the same. This is the future, until suddenly it wasn't. And now Shedeur, who should be developing with second-team reps, building chemistry with his receivers, mastering the actual playbook, is instead pretending to be Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow at practice. Meanwhile, the team keeps pumping out sound bites about how all quarterbacks are getting equal opportunities. Come on, we know better. Equal opportunities don't look like this. Equal opportunities don't have your most promising rookie buried on the depth chart, while journeymen and stopgaps eat up valuable snaps. Equal opportunities don't turn a first-round level talent into a glorified practice prop. And this isn't just about reps on paper. It's about what those reps mean. Every day Shedeur spends on scout team is a day lost building timing with actual Cleveland receivers. Every throw he makes in a foreign scheme is a throw not made in Kevin Stefanski's system. Development isn't just about throwing a football. It's about chemistry, confidence, and preparation. The Browns are robbing him of all three. So I've got to ask the same question every fan should be asking. How does a player this talented get reduced to running other people's playbooks? How do you waste this kind of potential? And if history tells us anything, the answer isn't pretty. Because in Cleveland, the depth chart isn't about talent. It's about dysfunction. And right now, Shedeur Sanders is the latest name caught in the middle of it. This is where the story stops being about one rookie quarterback and starts becoming about the Browns' identity. Because let's be honest, this franchise has been living under a dark cloud for decades. And every time we think they've found the light, every time fans start to believe in a new chapter, Cleveland finds a way to prove the curse is alive and well. Think back. Baker Mayfield. He was supposed to be the guy, #1 overall pick, swagger for days, and that rookie year energy that made fans believe for the first time in forever. He even delivered the Browns' first playoff win in nearly 30 years. But what happened? The front office soured on him. Injuries piled up. Politics got messy. Instead of stability, it turned into drama, finger-pointing, blame games, and eventually a trade out of town. Another quarterback wasted. Before Baker, there was Johnny Manziel. Remember the hype? Johnny football was electric in college, a Heisman winner, a showman who was supposed to bring Cleveland back to relevance. Instead, it was chaos, off-the-field headlines, lack of discipline, and an organization that had no real plan to develop him. One year he was a savior, the next he was gone, another name on the endless list. And then came the Deshaun Watson saga, the biggest trade in franchise history, the richest fully guaranteed contract the league had ever seen, and with it, a storm of controversy that divided fans and put the Browns right back in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. It wasn't about football anymore. It was about ownership making desperate, reckless decisions to chase something they didn't know how to handle. Do you see the pattern here? It's never about talent in Cleveland. It's about dysfunction. It's about an organization that can't get out of its own way. And now when we look at what's happening with Shedeur Sanders, it feels like we're watching the same story play out again. A talented quarterback walks into a mess, and instead of giving him a real chance, the Browns bury him under bad planning, mixed messaging, and internal politics. Because let's be real, this doesn't feel like football decisions. This feels like a tug of war between the front office, the coaching staff, and ownership. Someone in that building wanted Shedeur. Someone else didn't. And instead of unity, instead of a clear path forward, we're left with chaos. A rookie quarterback caught in the middle of a power struggle he never asked for. And if you're a Browns fan, how do you not feel cursed at this point? How do you not look at Shedeur running scout team reps and think, here we go again. Different names, different eras, same dysfunction, same results. That's the painful reality. The Browns don't just ruin quarterbacks by accident. They ruin them because their culture allows it. And unless something changes, unless somebody in that building decides to break the cycle, Shedeur Sanders could be the next name on a list that feels endless. And that's the part that hurts the most. Not because he isn't talented enough, but because Cleveland never learned how to handle talent in the first place. Here's the thing about Shedeur Sanders. Doubt has followed him everywhere he's gone. At Colorado, they said he was just riding his father's coattails. They said the hype was bigger than the talent, that he wouldn't survive once the schedule got tough, once the defenses got physical. And what did he do? He stood tall in the pocket, threw darts under pressure, and put up numbers that made the entire country stop and pay attention. 30-plus touchdowns, elite efficiency, ice in his veins. Every single time the critics lined up, Shedeur knocked them down with his play. So when I see him running scout team in Cleveland, I don't just see a quarterback being wasted. I see a quarterback being sharpened. Because pressure, adversity, humiliation, those things don't break competitors like Shedeur. They harden them. They fuel them. Think about what he's really learning right now. Every week he's being asked to replicate Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, some of the best quarterbacks this league has ever seen. He's studying their movements, their tendencies, their
decision-making. He's not just reading one playbook, he's reading every playbook. And while the Browns think they're burying him, what they're actually doing is giving him the kind of crash course most rookies never get. That's the hidden advantage here. While other young quarterbacks are stuck running the same basic installs over and over, Shedeur is out there facing Cleveland's first-team defense, guys who want to rip his head off every single snap. He's being forced to process faster, throw under tighter windows, adjust to chaos. And every rep, every snap, every so-called punishment is turning into preparation. This is where champions are made. Not when things are easy, not when the playbook is familiar and the reps are comfortable. Champions are made when everything is stacked against them, when the situation feels unfair, when the world tells them they're not ready. That's when players like Shedeur rise. That's when pressure creates diamonds. And if you've followed his journey, you already know this isn't new to him. He's been underestimated, disrespected, and written off before, and every single time he's answered with poise, confidence, and results. That's why I believe this moment isn't breaking him, it's building him. One day soon the Browns will have no choice but to give him real snaps, real drives, real opportunities. And when that moment comes, don't be surprised if Shedeur looks sharper, calmer, and more prepared than anyone expected. Because while Cleveland thinks they're slowing him down, what they're really doing is fueling his fire. This isn't the end of Shedeur Sanders' story. It's the beginning of the chapter that proves why he's special. And when he finally gets his shot, when the lights are on and the game is real, all of this adversity will show. Every rep on scout team, every moment of doubt, every headline questioning his future, it'll all come together. And that's when the league will realize the Browns accidentally gave birth to a monster. Mark my words, this storm in Cleveland isn't going away. If anything, it's just getting started. Because no matter how hard they try to bury Shedeur Sanders, no matter how many times they shuffle him to scout team or hide him behind the depth chart, talent like his doesn't stay quiet for long. It breaks through, it rises, it forces its way onto the field. And make no mistake, ownership feels it. That's why we've already heard whispers of anger behind closed doors. That's why reports keep surfacing about internal frustration. They know the truth. Shedeur Sanders has the talent to flip the entire franchise upside down. And the scariest part for them, when he does, everyone will remember how the Browns tried to hold him back. Think about the coaches right now. They're stuck. On one hand, they've got veterans they trust, guys they think they can control. On the other hand, they've got a rookie with generational pedigree and raw star power. Deep down, they know Shedeur is different. They see the arm strength. They see the leadership. They see the way players gravitate toward him, even in limited reps. And that terrifies them because once the locker room starts believing in him, there's no going back. And the league better be paying attention, because Shedeur Sanders isn't just another name in the quarterback carousel. He's a brand, a legacy, a quarterback who's been preparing for this stage his entire life. The Browns might think they're controlling the narrative, but the truth is, this story is bigger than Cleveland. Once Shedeur gets his chance, it's going to shake the AFC North. It's going to test defenses that thought they had the division figured out. It's going to remind the NFL that stars can rise from chaos. This is the beginning of a bigger story. It's not just about one rookie. It's about whether the Browns finally break the curse, or once again waste the kind of talent other franchises would kill to have. Because history says Cleveland finds a way to ruin these moments. But maybe, just maybe, this is the one that changes everything. And here's what I'll say to Browns fans watching this right now. Don't forget these days. Don't forget the headlines. Don't forget the press conferences, the contradictions, the scout team humiliation. Because when Shedeur Sanders finally gets under center, when he finally leads a drive that lights up the scoreboard, when he proves everyone wrong again, you're going to look back at this storm and realize it was the fuel. It was the adversity that made the rise unforgettable. So let the critics laugh. Let the front office fumble. Let the dysfunction run wild. Because storms don't last forever. And when this one clears, all that's going to be left standing is Shedeur Sanders, ready to take over the city of Cleveland and rewrite the future of the Browns. Remember these days, because they're about to make the story even sweeter.